Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll get going then. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Stafford Borough Council's webinar, Connecting Communities Through Walking. Really pleased to have you all here with us today. My name's Sam Taylor. I'm the lead officer at the Borough Council for Health and Housing Strategy, and I work in the same team as Sarah Ruff, who you might have heard from in the run up to this. She's been doing most of the organising in the background for us for today. We're really pleased to be able to host another one of these webinars. It's not the first time we've done it. And although it's a week where we're all beginning to experience some new freedoms, we're not quite ready to let go of Zoom yet. We are becoming a little bit more adept at supporting and sharing via these different online channels. And we've previously run some sessions on some fairly hard hitting topics during the kind of lockdown periods. And that was because we've got real clear commitments as a council to encouraging people to be engaged in developing their communities to be as resilient as possible and to promote health and well-being. And as part of that resilience, we did look at things like financial distress, we looked at mental health and well-being and sustainability of community groups and organisations. On the well-being front, we're going for something just slightly lighter today with that topic of walking. Yes, we've got some freedoms, but we're also really aware that confidence and physical strength and mobility are things that some folks will be needing and wanting to build back. There's also a bit of a legacy of enjoyment of simple things, staying close to home that we want to build upon. Many people have kind of picked up walking as a new pursuit for want of anything else to do. And we've certainly seen as a Borough Council increased requests for doorstep walk packs to be sent out to residents who are looking for those different routes. So we're really hoping that this session will help you all to forge some links with some different partners who are active in this area and to reconnect with those residents in your communities who've been distanced for a little bit too long. Some housekeeping: this is a recorded session because we're aware that not everyone can join us on this day at this time. So that recording will be available again later. All of our audience members are muted with videos off. So unless you're an invited panelist today, you don't need to worry, you can relax because we can't see or hear you in your face, and sounds won't be recorded in this either. Our panelists are going to stay with us to the end of the session today, with the exception of just a couple of people who will make themselves known, but that does mean that you've got access to the chat throughout. So if you think of a question while someone's speaking or something comes to mind slightly later, then you can pop that in the chat box. And if we don't get to ask your question today or get an answer across, we'll make sure that we follow up on those after the session. So a very big thank you to our speakers today from Together Active, Everyone Health, from the Borough Council, from Walkwise, Stafford and Next Door. And now thank you very much to Councillor Jeremy Pert, who's kindly going to give us a proper welcome address. So over to you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, and nicely billed as a proper welcome address. I thought yours was as stunning as ever. So good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Pert. I'm the Cabinet Member for Community and Health on Stafford Borough Council. And can I extend my welcome to everyone today, both those who are taking part in today's webinar and those engaged by the magic of the internet and technology. Thank you all for your time and involvement in connecting our communities, and in this case through walking. It's a technology piece that I really wanted to start on this afternoon. If you think back maybe 10 or 20 years, no one would have believed that using technology to allow us to meet, interact from anywhere in the world in any number of locations all at the same stage would have been possible. I hear some of those people who were involved in business saying, ah yes, but what about the use of video conferencing? And 20 years ago, yes, there was a bit of video conferencing, but you know, that was nothing like in the size and scale that is available today, and it certainly wasn't cheap or suitable for everyday usage. And I guess my point really is that it's only through looking back and looking forwards that we can see the progress or the pace of change. It's a bit like when I used to go home and see my parents after not seeing them for maybe 2 or 3 months. And my mum would always say whether I'd grown or whether I'd put on weight or whether I'd lost weight. And whether it was true or not is somewhat irrelevant. It's only through separation or through looking at things in a detached way do we notice those changes that have happened. And so making that relevant to the last 18 months, has been an enormously difficult period for lots of people. And, you know, we've talked about this any number of times, and it's very easy to zone and tune out those messages and those things because, oh, yes, we know about that. So we talked about it last week and last month and last year. And actually, the reality is that some of the impacts of what we've had to live through will be with us for many, many years to come. And it is only through doing things in different ways and joining back our communities. And I think that's a common theme between all of us today, that we're interested in our communities. It is only through doing that that we can progress forward and to move forward together. So it may be that some of the people that we've come into contact with, you know, had very small and marginal impacts on their life. Maybe they didn't get out as much to see friends. Maybe they didn't get out to go and eat out as much. For others, you know, the complete loss of routine, the impact on mental health through furlough, and the worry about whether they were going to come back to a job, you know, might have been significant. For others, the loss of work hours and income and the squeeze on families themselves might have been a significant impact. And obviously, there's the elements that, you know, working and living from home, a place where we always wanted to spend more time previously, you know, might have been fine for those people who've got children who've flown the nest. But on the opposite side, if you've got 4 children under the age of 5, all in a cramped environment, it's a completely different story. So I think that, you know, reflecting back, there are lots of people coming from lots of different places and actually continuing the work, the brilliant work that was done last year in supporting everyone in communities, which was principally about the here and now. How do we get food to people who've got no food? How do we do the prescription piece? But actually, you know, there is an opportunity to build on those foundations to move forwards. And walking and some of the tips and tools that some of the other speakers today will talk through will be really helpful in doing that. I also just want to touch on the impact for some people on being told they were vulnerable for the first time because they had to shield. And some of that hasn't yet been reversed in people's minds. And actually recognizing that a journey starts, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with just one step. Actually walking a step in someone else's shoes, I think really helps us. To use a couple of analogies, really helps us just really sort of try and put that focus here. A couple of stories, then I'm going to give you some thoughts for today. The first story is the first step is the hardest, as a phrase, is a story popularly associated with a saint, a French saint, Saint Denis, who walked several miles allegedly with his head in his hands, having had it cut off. And of learning of this, a French nobleman remarked in French, "It is only the first step that counts." And so, you know, here I think the most difficult thing is to make that first step and to commit to doing something and to going and doing something different. I think the recognition that physical inactivity can increase social isolation, reduce independence, and also impact both on physical and mental health is really important, particularly when we're told to socially distance, particularly when we're being told to stay at home, and things like that exasperate that feeling of isolation. But this afternoon is about taking on a journey. A webinar packed full of extremely knowledgeable guests and speakers, a webinar packed full of information, tips and ideas to help either support walking groups in your area or to signpost other people who might want to start those sorts of groups, be able to do the same. And we'll take you from your back door and give you and help you with providing the tools to be able to build confidence and to take those first steps back outside. So in terms of outcomes from today, what I'd love to see as an outcome from today is that we build on the almanac of favourite walks in an area. I'd like to feel that we, maybe that will inspire other people to follow some of those walks, or maybe to come and join you in those walks. And walking together or following in your footsteps is a really powerful way of talking in terms of paths are made by walking, and sometimes you have to go and make those paths, and sometimes you follow those paths. One of the roles that you might be able to play today is through encouraging existing walking groups maybe to restart, and maybe they haven't been as active as they'd like to have been. As Sam mentioned, with the new found opportunities from a Monday of last week or of this week, that might be a good opportunity. It might be also good to ask them to, or challenge them to invite a friend who hasn't walked with them before to come and join them, because then at least we'll get, the benefits felt more widely across our communities. Maybe we could commit to going on a walk, once a month for the next 12 months and seeing if other people will come and join us on the same basis. And before I hand over, just in case you think that I talk about these things and don't do anything myself, I just wanted to mention that my big step this year is on the 7th of August, I will be starting the Staffordshire Way over 8 days, all 95 miles of it in aid of charity. And anyone who wants to come and join us is more than welcome, whether it's a mile or a step. I prefer it was a mile or two. But if you want to come and join us, then please feel free. Alternatively, if you want to sponsor us, also please feel free. I'm more than happy to give you those details. So let me hand back over to Sam. But otherwise, I just wanted to say one final thing, which was really delighted not only with today's contributors, but I think equally having someone like Nextdoor, which is the hyper-local social media platform, with us today is really delightful. And I'm really pleased that they're partnering with Stafford Borough Council as a first. Given this is an organisation that's about to go for a float and is worth about £4 billion, the fact that they're coming and talking to Stafford Borough Council and talking to some of our residents about the real importance of what they can offer and what we can do together, I think is really important. So thank you to them, especially for coming along and joining with us. And back to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for that really useful welcome address and for covering so many helpful points as well. I think you've given us a really great introduction. Wasn't quite prepared for the headless man bit, I'm not going to lie, but the rest, spot on. If it's all right with you, Lottie, I'm very pleased to introduce you next. This is Lottie Smith from Together Active, who's going to share her presentation with us today.
Let me just get stuff on the screen, hopefully. There we go. Hopefully you can all see that now. So my name's Lottie Smith. I come from an organisation called Together Active, and we're the active partnership for Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. We're a charity that's funded by Sport England mostly, and basically what we do is encourage the residents of the area to be more active and provide opportunities for them to do so. Today what I'm talking to you about is getting started with walking. So if it is that you've got a long-term health condition or a disability, or after being isolated for such a long period of time, you've just lost a bit of confidence, I just want to give some ideas of how you can get started or encourage other people to take those first steps to being more active and walking more. So firstly, I just wanted to cover why walking in particular. Now, walking is a brilliant form of low impact cardio exercise. And what that means is that it gets your heart rate up without putting up too much stress on your body, it's really useful for things like weight loss, for weight management, for stress control, for managing anxiety and other mental health conditions. And it's just something that you can do really easily and pick up from your doorstep. It's an ideal form of activity for people who haven't been active for very long as well. So if it is that you've barely moved for a long period of time, you're recovering from an illness, you're struggling with your health, it's an activity that you can incorporate into your day. So whether it is just walking a little bit further when you're walking around your house or your flat, whether it's going out into the garden for a little bit, it's something that you can just do that's very easy. It doesn't take any equipment or much support, and it's just something you can pick up regardless of where your activity level is currently. And the thing that we really want to emphasize is that moving more in any way that you're possibly able to will benefit most health conditions. So even if it's, as I say, walking a little bit around your flat, whether it's moving whilst you're sitting in your chair when you normally wouldn't, every bit of exercise that you can do and incorporate into your day helps your body a little bit. The more you can do is the better, obviously, but more anything is better than nothing. And the best thing about walking is that it's completely free. You can do it anywhere, anytime, and you don't have to pay for it. You don't need to go to a specific location. There's loads of walks you can do from your doorstep. And like I say, there's loads of ways you can incorporate it into your everyday. So some of the benefits of walking that we've kind of touched on already, it improves your circulation, which means it helps with blood pressure, it helps strengthen your heart, and it helps reduce instances of heart disease. It helps you control high blood pressure as well. So if that's something that you suffer from, it can help you keep that under control. It also helps with improving bone strength and bone density. So it helps you with things like arthritis or osteoporosis by the impact of walking actually helps strengthen your bones the more you do it. It's been shown to help reduce the risk of Alzheimer's, and people who walk for more than 30 minutes a day have been shown to have a far lesser chance of developing Alzheimer's and dementia. It supports positive mental health, so it makes you feel better. It reduces anxiety levels, particularly if you're able to walk in nature, in green environments. It helps reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. It strengthens your muscles, particularly your leg muscles and your core, which helps with other exercises and activities. And it improves your sleep. So if you do suffer from things like insomnia or waking in the night, it can actually help soothe your body and your mind so that you sleep better and have a deeper, more healthier sleep. But as I've mentioned, any amount of walking helps. So it's not a case if you suddenly have to get up and start climbing mountains, anything that you do will be beneficial to your body. So getting started, and this is really important, and Jeremy touched on this when he mentioned the weather at the moment. Before you start any form of new physical activity, you must speak to your GP. They'll know best whether you're able to do it, the amount you're able to do, and give you the best advice for your particular health conditions on what you should and shouldn't be doing. So make sure that you do that in any case. Any kind of pair of supportive, comfortable shoes will do. So don't worry about getting expensive equipment or walking boots or anything like that. Just a good pair of shoes that you're comfortable in will be absolutely perfect for walking when you're getting started. Starting with shorter distances on familiar routes is a really good way to get used to it. So that could be walking to a friend's house, walking to the shop nearby, walking around a local park. Just get used to being out and moving your body and understand where your physical limitations are. Take a friend with you for support. So walking together is a really good way of socializing, particularly at the moment when we're just coming out of COVID restrictions. It can just give you that little bit of extra motivation. And then, as Jeremy mentioned as well, take some water and snacks for longer walks. Really be aware of what the weather's going to be doing. I think I've got next one. So yeah, be prepared for the weather, whatever's going to happen. Make sure you've got plenty of sunscreen, nice high factor, please. I have children, so I have factor 50 at all times. A hat, sunglasses, waterproofs if you're expecting to be out for a longer period of time, and plenty of water as well. Just make sure that you're prepared for whatever type of walking you're doing. Now, you may worry that you might not be very active at the moment, but there's great ways to actually integrate walking into your daily life. So it helps you increase your activity levels just by walking short distances, as I've mentioned, whether that is just taking a walk to the shop rather than driving, walking around your garden, or walking around your house. If you're able to walk, you should start with short distances and then increase how far you go gradually. So if you're able to, monitor how far you go, whether it's to the end of the street and back again, and then to the end of the next street and back again, over a longer period of time, work up your distances more and more and more, and keep track of how far you're progressing, because that will help you with your motivation further down the line. Exchange your normal car journeys for walking. So that could be, like we say, to the local shop or the trip to the GP, to the pharmacy, to a friend's house. Just look for those opportunities to walk instead of taking the car that you might normally do. and then gradually increase your pace as well. So you might start at quite a slow pace just to get used to it. But as you progress and as your physical health improves, then you can go a little bit faster each time. And that's another thing that you can monitor and keep track of. So using things like pedometers can really help you track that progress. They can be quite cheap to pick up from a number of stores or online. A lot of mobile phones these days have built-in pedometers, so it'll track what you're doing and your activity levels and give you lots of nice, interesting data and statistics on how you're doing over a period of time. It's really important that you look for ways to challenge yourself. So if you're looking to set little goals and push yourself a little bit further each time, that will really help with your motivation and help you keep going and trying harder and harder each time. And really, it's just a case of making walking a daily habit. So it's not something that you're trying to squeeze into your day. It just becomes a natural part of your day and your natural rhythm. So getting started at home, if you're not quite ready to go out walking yet, there's still plenty of ways that you can build up your physical strength and your confidence ready to go out. So things like online exercise videos. One thing that COVID has actually been really great for is the number and quality of exercise videos that are available online, mostly for free. We've got a number on our site, which I'll direct you to later, but there's plenty on YouTube and there's loads that you can find that will give you lots of little activities you can do in your own space. Walk around your garden if you're lucky enough to have one, or just the local neighbourhood, just short walks, go round and round again, just to get used to that movement, to get used to being outside and understand where your physical limits are. Walking around your living room is even beneficial for you. So I've worked with social prescribers, and one of the stories that we've had back is people who thought they weren't really capable of doing any physical activity have tried just walking around their coffee table a few times each day and then pushing themselves to walk around a couple extra times each day. And before they know it, their physical activity levels are much higher. They feel a lot better in themselves, and their strength and physical health has improved quite considerably. So even those very, very small initial targets can really help motivate you and get you to that next level of physical health. Try some sitting exercises if you're not ready for that yet. So as I say, there's loads and loads available online. There's lots of resources. If you're not able to access online videos or have a problem accessing things digitally, social prescribers, your GP should be able to provide you with printed activities that you can do at home. And then setting yourself goals to be a little bit more active each day, and then celebrating when you reach them is really important. So as I've mentioned, that goal setting element will really help keep you on track and help you get to that next stage and progress in your physical activity levels. But it's really important that you look back and take that time to see where you've come from and where you've got to, and celebrate that success, even if it's only a small one, so that you can really be motivated to carry on. So as I mentioned, getting motivated. When you are setting those goals, you must be really aware that they're attainable. So there's no point saying that today I'm going to walk around my garden, but next week I'm going to walk up Kilimanjaro. It's just not going to happen, and that's only going to decrease your motivation levels. But it might be something like you're going to walk 5 minutes more every week. So you're going to start at 5 minutes, then next week you'll do 10 minutes and the next 15, and just gradually build it up that way. Or it might be that you do one more walk each week. So you might start on one and the next week 2, and then carry on building up and doing a little bit more. And by making these goals achievable, it really helps you track your progress, and it helps you feel motivated because you're able to see where you're coming from and reach those goals. And as we've mentioned, walking with a friend or listening to your favorite music or podcasts, or just trying new routes around your local area can really help keep you interested and keep you curious and keep you going if it's starting to get a bit monotonous or samey. And thankfully, there's loads and loads of apps out there that can help you get going as well. So apps like Active 10, which is produced by Public Health England, has got loads of ways to actually track your activity levels so that you can see your progression over time. All Trails is one that I really recommend, and I actually use this over the weekend, which shows you loads of local walking routes and helps you actually navigate along those routes if you're unfamiliar with them. So I used them to go up to the Trenton Monument the other day, and I absolutely would have got lost if I hadn't used it. So it's a really, really good one if you just want to have a look and see and have that bit of a guide around those routes. Strava is a really popular app. So this tracks your distance, time and elevation, so you can see over longer routes how you've done and how your time is improving. And then the Fitbit app. So whether or not you have a Fitbit or activity tracker, you can still use the app to monitor your physical activity level. So it's a really useful one to just have on your phone. And I just wanted to tell you about our website, Active My Way, which I've mentioned earlier. This is our site that includes loads of information and resources about getting physically active and opportunities to get physically active. So it's made by us and developed by us, and we look after it. And it's all about supporting you to be more active in the way that you want to be active. So if walking's not for you, you want to try something else, we'll have something on there to help you get started. And there's loads and loads of information and inspiration, particularly for people with physical health conditions or long-term health conditions, about ways that you can ease into activity or start to incorporate it into your daily routine. We also have a load of videos on there as well. So we've created this library which has specific health conditions all considered. So there's all different things that you can be doing in your own home, regardless of what your activity level is currently, just to kind of get your activity levels up a little bit. And we also have a link to an activity finder, which has live information about activities and groups that you can join in your local area. So it shows you all of the opportunities, things like football clubs, cricket clubs, dance classes, and you're able to book on and talk to the person who's running it and understand what the sessions are going to be like. So if you want to be more active, there's opportunities out there locally that you're able to join in with. We're also working with loads of local groups to help them add their walks onto here as well. So if they're running a local walk, you'll be able to find it and book onto it really easily. So what we do as an active partnership is provide funding to those local groups, particularly people who are creating walking groups for people with long-term health conditions or from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, because we want to get everyone to be more active, and we're trying to get everyone to level up and have equal opportunity to be more active in the local area. And recently we've been using our Tackling Inequalities funding. So if you're looking to start a new walking group or you want to develop an existing one, we may be able to help you with funding for that. So do get in touch if that's something you'd be interested to do. I just got some contact details here. So I'll drop these into the chat box as well as my email address. So if you've got any questions whatsoever, you want to know more about Active My Way, about getting started in walking, or about funding opportunities, please do get in touch. I am going to have to shoot off really soon because I've had the dreaded call from nursery that COVID has got there. So I won't be able to stick along around till the end, but do please get in touch if there's anything that you'd like to know more about.
Thank you, Lottie. Thank you very much. I've seen a couple of little bits popping up in the chat. Definitely people have mentioned how inspiring Captain Sir Thomas More was. If he can do laps of the garden, then it's good enough for the rest of us, I'm sure. There was just one quick question, which was to ask, is there a recommended daily number of steps that we should all be aiming for?
Not necessarily. I've seen the 10,000 steps, and that's a good number to aim at, but it's also unobtainable for quite a lot of people, to be perfectly honest. It's a good number to aim for, though. What the actual direction from the Chief Medical Officer is 150 minutes of moderate physical activity per week, and that's broken down into whatever kind of activity you can do throughout the week. So it might be half an hour a day for 5 days a week of walking at a decent pace. But I wouldn't worry about a certain number of steps. It's good to have a number to aspire to, but anything is better than nothing. And that's really what I want people to take away from this, is do more than you're doing now and you're doing great.
Thank you. I think those are really, really wise words. And I heard something recently where someone said, if you feel like giving up, look back to where you started from, because at the point where you started, you'd have given anything to be where you are now. So even if it's only 2 more steps today than it was yesterday, it's worth having a go. And I will also just reiterate the weather warning and that need to take on water and consult with GPs before starting anything new. But on the weather, you know, we're pretty lucky at the moment. It's nice and sunny and warm. It's not always going to be like this. And so I would also say that rain always sounds worse when it's hitting the window than it does when it's hitting your face. So get out there if you can. Okay, I will let you go then, Lottie. Thanks ever so much, and introduce next up another speaker from Everyone Health. We have got Danny Jakeman for you. So Danny, if you're ready, I'll let you take over the screen.
Just sharing my screen now. Perfect. Yeah, so my name's Danny and I'm from a company called Everyone Health. We actually are working across Staffordshire to deliver community wellbeing programs so that we can increase our health, not just in our physical body, but also in our mental health as well. So who are Everyone Health? Everyone Health are a company that has been working in community health, wellbeing and the leisure services for over 30 years. Currently, we're commissioned by the Staffordshire County Council to deliver these 3 services across the county to help people increase their health and reduce long-term health conditions. The way that the courses and the services work are on a behaviour change approach. So a lot like what we've talked about in the last chat is the fact that it's all about trying to add it into your day, trying to make these behaviour changes over your lifestyle, rather than thinking about, right, I must do X amount of minutes per day, or I must try and eat X amount of calories less. However, if we're going to try and change behaviours, it's going to help in all aspects of health, fitness and wellbeing. Okay, they're all evidence-based programs, and we use we're managed by Public Health England and the NHS to make sure that our services are appropriate to the clients that we see. Our objective for a healthy population, so improving health, physical health, mental health and wellbeing in the communities and workplaces across. We're trying to make sure that we have accessible services for people that need them. We've trained specialist practitioners in this behaviour change approach in their specific service. So like myself, I'm one of the community engagement managers, but I also am a nutritionist that runs the weight management services. We've got physical activity advisors that run the falls prevention and physical activity services, and we've got stop smoking practitioners that run the stop smoking services as well. So reducing health inequalities and the prevention of long-term conditions is the whole premise of our courses, so that it's not just a certain person that can actually have access to these opportunities. It's trying to tackle the people that are most need to help them become healthier and reduce that long-term health conditions risk. So all of our programs are free of charge, and they're all 12 weeks long with a support call that happens 12 months after that first engagement. So what we actually do, so as you can expect, it is all changing at the minute just because of restrictions, lifting and things like that. So that means that eligibilities and actually what we're offering is actually changing. But these are the services and these are the main areas that we actually focus on in this community-based service. So we offer a stop smoking service, stop smoking and pregnancy service, the adult weight management service that I've touched on before, our physical activity groups, falls prevention, a social isolation and loneliness program, healthy workplaces, and we also offer the NHS Health Check. So a few of these are actually really important of what we're actually talking about today. So the main ones that I take from this webinar would be the physical activity groups, the social isolation and loneliness groups, and actually that adult weight management group as well. So our first one is our physical activity groups. And so this is actually for anybody over the age of 18 that lives in Staffordshire that reports low levels of physical activity. So like what we talked about earlier, we actually offer health walks that have actually just gone back out. So in Stafford at the minute, we've got one as just going back with them, but we've got one on a Thursday lunchtime, and that runs from I believe the Asda Park, a car park, and it goes down the river. We are looking to build on these health walks with our staff, our current staff and volunteers to run these health walks as well, to try and get as many people in as possible. Like what mentioned before, because there's a lot of people that are still considered vulnerable or consider themselves vulnerable. These groups are quite small at the minute. And if they do get bigger, what we'll do is we'll either have more practitioners available at that time for that group, or we'll offer more groups in different areas around the area. Okay. We also offer ones in, so close to Stafford, we offer ones in Cannock and Rugeley, and they run on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Fridays. But as I say, it depends on if you've got more access to actually get to Cannock, but are struggling on a Thursday, then those are a little bit easier for you. We also offer different live activity sessions at the minute. These are on things like Zoom and Teams. We also have lots of free videos as well on YouTube that you can actually access if you can become one of our service users. With our physical activity service, as I say, it is all about just trying to building, like was mentioned before from Lottie, it is all about building, trying to make little increments into your physical activity to make it a little bit more each week or each month. Okay, it's not about going from 0 to 100, because you're more than likely going to get demotivated or actually injure yourself in the process. So we've got, as I say, these physical activity specialists which can guide you through that first 12 weeks of actually getting back out into it being active, so that you can do it in a much more manageable approach. Our social isolation and loneliness program. So this is for any adult over the age of 18 that lives in Staffordshire, reports feelings of loneliness or social isolation. So this is basically just trying to get people to find contacts with other people that aren't needed contacts, like going to the doctors or the post office, is contacts that they want to go and see. So what we're trying to do, we've got virtual clubs at the minute, which are actually returning back to face-to-face services in the very near future, hopefully from the start to mid-August. And these will not just have the craft and history cup and chatter groups that we're looking for, but we're also actually offering a walk and chat group. And these are going around the areas as well, for people to walk a little bit slower potentially, and actually build up that confidence to actually be next to people and be close to people before going back out into the wide world, so that they can be less socially isolated and lonely. It's actually just as bad as smoking to feel socially isolated and lonely. I think it's about the same as smoking about 10 cigarettes a day. So it is a big needed cause that we're trying to help with. We've got a falls prevention program. So I like what we said about building strength and we're gaining confidence when we're getting back out to walking. We actually offer a falls prevention program to help people be more balanced and reduce that risk of falling as they get back out to their normal lives. So this is a little bit more of a restricted service for anybody over the age of 50 that is targeted in LSOA postcodes or registered 40 GP practices over Staffordshire. And they must have a feeling of fear of falling or recently fallen. And these are basically pre-recorded and support calls that can help us build our strengths, especially in our core, our tops of our legs, to help us feel more steady on our feet, which will then make us potentially walk a little bit further going forward, because we will feel more confident in doing it. We offer smoking cessation programs, which is for any adult over the age of 40 that lives in Staffordshire and is a tobacco smoker. So this service is free medication, so NRT, along with that telephone support call. As I say, this can mean that if we do give up smoking, walking becomes a little bit easier and a little bit more fun. So we are able to do a little bit more, feel fitter, get out a little bit more and things We've got a stop smoking and pregnancy service for any client that is pregnant and smokes tobacco, or a smoker who lives in the same household as a pregnant smoker can also join this service. They can refer themselves at any point in their gestational period, and this is same again, run by our smoking practitioners with telephone support calls, free medication, but it is also managed by our midwife lead. Our weight management service is a service to try and help us lose weight and be more active. For this service, it's a 12-week program that combines both nutrition and physical activity to help us lose weight. For this service, you need to be over the age of 18, live in Staffordshire, and have a BMI of over 28 if you've got a pre-existing condition, or over 30 if you're generally healthy. So, as I said, this can be virtual. We are looking to go back out into the community with these services as well, but these are virtual at the minute with pre-recorded videos and telephone support calls with a nutritionist and physical activity specialist. If you don't like the sound of that, that's totally fine. We also offer Weight Watchers and Slimming World vouchers for you to use as well. There is an extra eligibility with this one, but it depends on which works for you. And as I say, with the NICE guidelines that come from public health, we need to offer as many different services as possible. So our NHS Health Checks, nice quickly run through this, but this is for any resident in Staffordshire who is aged between 40 and 74, hasn't had a health check in the last 5 years, not diabetic, no history of strokes or heart attacks, cardiovascular kidney conditions, or pre-diagnosed high blood pressure or cholesterol. This is basically like the MOT for our body, so that we know and can spot the early signs of strokes, kidney disease, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, or dementia. So the way that you refer, so we aren't pinholed into having GP referrals and things like that. Actually, you can self-refer yourself, or if you've got a friend or family member that would be really useful for the service, tell them to give us a call on this free phone number here. You can also email our NHS Health, our NHS email address, or actually log on to our website and use the online booking form there. This is where you find us on the internet. So we're on our website, on Staffordshire Connects, and also on Facebook. Our Facebook is the most useful social media to use because it's the most easily updated. So that's where you're going to find the most new, well, the most new news about our services going back out into the into face-to-face. I'll put my email in the chat box, and I'll put our website and Facebook in there as well, so that you've got easy access to them. But hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and any questions?
Thank you, Danny. That was really interesting. There was a lot going on in that service that I didn't know about previously, so that was really helpful, really useful. I was surprised you cover quite so many different areas of health. There has been a little bit of traffic in the chat while you've been speaking. I think, just as luck would have it, you've addressed a couple of queries as you've been speaking. Those last couple of slides giving out the Facebook address and the referral routes in has resolved for some people. But if you just want to have a look in there and, like you say, just post those links across to make them really accessible, I think that would probably help. And Sharon has asked if you can just clarify how you will be letting residents know where those face-to-face venues are going to be. What communication method are you going to use to get that information out?
Perfect. Yeah, I'll reply to all of everybody on in the chat.
Super. Thank you very much. All right then. Next up, we have one of our very own, Sarah Ruff from Stafford Borough Council. Sarah.
Thank you, Sam. Right, I'll just share my screen now. Can everyone see that and hear it? Yeah, lovely. I've got the thumbs up. Okay then, so for everyone who doesn't know me, my name's Sarah and I'm the Health and Wellbeing Community Support Officer. I'm briefly going to talk to you about our Doorstep Walks project. I say briefly because I'm conscious of the time and we promise this will be just around the hour. So I'm happy to answer any questions behind after the webinar also. I just wanted to also just start off by saying that we wouldn't be able to do this project without the support of the National Lottery Community Fund and also Care Plus. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about is our Doorstep Walks project. I'm going to give you a bit of context to why we're creating some of our Doorstep Walks. Actually, what is a Doorstep Walks for this intention, for this project, and how we can support you and hopefully inspire you, and hopefully you'll then get back in touch with us and help create and share some walks. So just as a bit of a context, the council used to have some Doorstep Walks. They were quite long, if I'm perfectly honest, and they've always been available on our website. And during last year, we noticed all of a sudden we had an increase of people requesting Doorstep Walk packs. And I'm guessing that's because for everyone who's not shielding, the one thing that we was allowed to do was to stay local and to go, and we was allowed to walk, basically. We had an opportunity to do some physical exercise. So we had an increase there. So we were thinking, well, more people want to know where to go. And then also people have been getting out themselves and finding newfound walks. They might have done some existing ones, but actually they've just been exploring their neighbourhoods locally and finding these wonderful places that they didn't even know existed. So we kind of want to know more about those walks and help you share those walks with your neighbours, community groups, parish councils. So what is a Doorstep Walk for us? Quite simply, it's really simple. It's a walk basically around your neighbourhood. It's a description, where to start, where to end, and any interesting features. So you might point out places of beauty, places to stop and have a rest, benches, any local knowledge that you have. So what we're doing now at the council is creating our own Doorstep Walks. We've obviously got a number of beautiful parks with amazing facilities for members of the public to use. So we're going to create some walks in our own parks, and they'll all be available on our website. And also we'll then want to invite you to share some walks also, and we want to share our template that we're going to use. So over the next few weeks, months, you're going to be seeing more of this branding. And we will then create Doorstep Walks. So this is just an example here. So if you're a parish council or a resident or a community group, you can join us and create some Doorstep Walks. You know, we can add your logo to it. If you give us permission, we can say that it's resident led and put your name on it also. And then from there, what we want you to do is then share it with people. So it might be that you actually just share it with your neighbours, or actually are you a parish council and you could put it on your webpage, you could put it in newsletters. Maybe it's a start of creating a walk on a Saturday or something. The list is endless. So we just basically want to let you know that this resource is here and to get in touch. So while of all the covers, we've also got here examples of some of our branding and information graphics that we can include on the template as well. So these, like I say, are just examples, but it highlights some of the benefits and the feelings that you might get from just walking and just connecting with people again. We have here a fancy colour palette, and you can choose the colours of your walk. So ultimately, it will look something like this. So at the end of this project, we want as many Doorstep Walks as possible. You might do one walk and it might be 10 minutes long, it might be 15 minutes long, or you might be a parish council or a different walking group that actually want to do about 10 or 15, and you can colour theme the walks. Okay, so this basically is my ask of you. If anybody is interested in creating some Doorstep Walks, please get in touch with me. If you're supporting people that just want to step outside again, like Danny and Lottie have mentioned, a lot of people have lost confidence at the moment. Maybe you could suggest that they can actually design a doorstep walk themselves. They could do it with a neighbour just to start those social connections again. What I would love to hear from you, and you'll get my email address in the moment, is just a description of your walk. Your walk should be nice and simple and easy to follow. We'd love to see photos. Just be mindful not to include people without permission. You know, beautiful scenery that you see, any places of interest. A map, again, Lottie's already alluded to some apps that are available. If you've got one, send that across and we can include it in the template. And most importantly, we want your local knowledge. It's best coming from you and from your neighbourhoods because you know the places of interest. You've discovered new places. You can highlight if there's a bench to sit on and just take 5 minutes if you don't want to actually walk too far to start with. You can actually just take notice of the environment that's around you as well. So please take a photo. Take a picnic with you if you're going to go out with your neighbours, if you're going to go out with your walking group, and send that information all to me. I do just want to highlight, I'm very aware that Doorstep Walks is not a new thing, and I'm aware that community groups and walking groups and parish councils have created walks themselves, and absolutely that's fantastic, and please continue to do that. But what I kind of want to offer here is a resource. Obviously, some people would love to do something like this, but they don't have the technology or the time to do it. So what I'm kind of saying to you is present you with your knowledge, your information, and we can create something for you. And then we can have a conversation about how you might share that in your communities. You'll hear shortly from our speaker, Alice, on Nextdoor, and it might be an opportunity there. You could share it on that platform. But like I say, it might be that you just knock on somebody's door and just say, I've got this walk, do you fancy coming? So please get in touch with me, even if you just want to talk through the idea. I'd love to hear from you. My email address, I'll pop it in the chat box as well. The best way to get in touch with us is walking@staffordbc.gov.uk. And I've also included our website address with a /walking on there, because it's packed full of information on there. We've got some information about our doorstep walks, but also the some information from the speakers that you're hearing today. So I'm going to just stop sharing my screen now, and I'll pass back to Sam. I can answer any questions, but like I say, I'm on hand to answer any questions after the webinar also.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, the chat's been really active while you've been talking. There was a question first off from John, who would like to know about risk assessments for the walks. Who's going to do those and how often?
Yeah, John, absolutely. And that's a consideration that needs to be taken in. And on some of the information that I've got as well, I'm absolutely saying things like follow the countryside code, also don't enter private property. But what we'll be actually doing is asking the individuals to do those risk assessments of the parish councils, but I can absolutely provide some guidance if people need it with the type of things that we're actually looking for in when people are going for a walk. What I did suppose I just want to add is that these walks don't have to be long. We're all talking and coming from a place where people have lost confidence. So if it's a 10-minute walk, then that is fine. And you look, if you want to aspire to an hour and a half, absolutely do so. And we can look at the risk assessment side. But basically, we just want to get people walking, like I said, something is better than nothing. And often with walking, it's actually a conversation starter. And if we can suggest to somebody, oh, have you tried this walk? And that feeling of just going out and saying hello to somebody can absolutely change somebody's day. So we just want walking and connections to be made.
Thank you, Sarah. There's been a couple of other questions around how can we get a hold of some of these leaflets and can we have your template? So if you can go ahead and pop your contact details and the web address in the chat to folks, I think that will probably help then. And then obviously we can take any more questions further that way after the webinar.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just drop me an email and we can start having those conversations and working together.
Lovely, thank you. All right, next we have on our agenda a gentleman named Chris Calkin from Walkwise Stafford. He's the chair of Walkwise in Stafford. Unfortunately, he can't join us in person today, but by the wonders of modern technology, we do have his message to share. So as long as I can make this work properly, we're going to hear Chris's presentation now. Okay, someone give me a nod or a thumbs up if you can see.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Calkin and I am the current chair of Stafford Walkwise. I'm really sorry I can't be with you in person this afternoon, as important family commitments have made that impossible. However, I did not want to miss the opportunity of telling you about Stafford Walkwise and the Walking for Health schemes. Currently, we are operating under the Walking for Health name. This will change in October to Ramblers, Wellbeing, Walks. But whatever the name, whether it's Walking for Health or Ramblers Wellbeing Walks, the goal is the same, that everyone should have access to a friendly, short group walk within easy reach of where they live to help them become and stay active. We aim to make sure that we can provide a shorter and less challenging walk to suit individual needs. So, what is a health walk? There are some important principles in creating a health walk. It's got to be free. It's got to be easily accessible, preferably by public transport, close to where people live. It's got to be over easy terrain. We're not talking about mountaineering here. We've got to look at stiles and over steep hills. Shouldn't require any special equipment because that's going to cost and that will exclude some people. We encourage an appropriate pace. We have strollers and sprinters and we try to accommodate that within the groups by leaders taking the strollers at one speed and the sprinters at another. Have a minimum of 10 to 30 minutes, a maximum of 90 minutes. They should be regular, preferably meeting at the same place and time each week. That's been difficult during COVID, but now things are hopefully returning to normal. We will get back to that situation. Should be run by a recognised scheme, which we are. That's important because that enables us to follow best practice guidelines and that walkers can be assured that the walks are risk assessed and they are led by people who have been trained to lead walks appropriately. Stafford Walkwise is a federation of 7 Walking for Health groups. It has its own constitution and all walk leaders are entitled to attend the usually quarterly meetings and vote on issues. Officers are elected annually. We have been successful in securing lottery funding to support the groups and we are members of Support Staffordshire. Each group operates independently, sets their own walk, frequency, etc. The groups have their own group leaders who were supported by walk leaders. Prior to COVID, we had 7 very active groups. Based on the data we have for 2019, there were approximately 350 organised walks with an average of 15 walkers per walk. This resulted in 5,000 individual walks in the year. None of this would have been possible without the support and dedication of the group and walk leaders who put in a tremendous amount of work in planning the programme, risk assessing the walks and leading on the day. What has been the impact of COVID? Well, walks were suspended for the majority of 2020 and have only just restarted in the spring of 2021. This has led to the temporary suspension of some groups. Some of the groups continued to walk as groups of friends and supported each other during lockdowns. And that is brilliant, job done. We have people taking regular exercise and enjoying the company of friends. However, the purpose of Walking for Health is to encourage and reach out to people who maybe do not have that social network to enable them to walk with a group, and they may feel anxious about walking on their own. Walking for Health provides the framework for people to engage in an organised activity which is kept as informal as possible. All the hard work goes on in the background. We've also lost some walk leaders who have stepped down for whatever reason and have decided to take a different direction. However, we do have people queuing up to be trained as walk leaders. We've also lost some walkers, some temporarily, due to concern of COVID, as they haven't yet felt comfortable walking with a group. As the restrictions are lifted, we hope that more of these will return. But there's more good news than bad news. 5 groups have restarted, and we plan to start new groups and restart the lost groups and recruit group walk leaders and walk leaders. So any volunteers, please email me at walkwise@btinternet.com. We're recruiting new walkers all the time. New group at Barlaston has successfully started. Doxy is almost growing weekly. Stone is growing weekly. It's the strongest growth ever recorded. There's a new group at Yarnfield about to be established. Train the Trainer, now trained, so new walk leaders can now be trained to replace those lost walk leaders. And we're preparing to move to Ramblers Wellbeing walks in October. What about the future? Well, it looks good, but we need more group leaders and walk leaders to grow existing groups. Once we get up to about 30, it gets quite difficult to manage, so we need to split the walk into 2, and we have had that situation. We want to establish new groups in new areas. So if you're interested, be assured you will be fully supported and trained. Anybody interested who would like more information or just an informal discussion can contact me at walkwise@btinternet.com. I'm sorry that I won't be able to be there in person to answer any of your questions. Can I thank you for listening, and may you continue to enjoy your walking wherever and however you do it. Thank you.
Okay, so enormous thanks to Chris for providing that for us. And as he said, if you have got questions, there's the email address that he's provided. You can pop them in the chat and Sarah and I will make sure they get passed along, or you can email us directly. Any one of those options is fine, whatever's most convenient for you at the moment. Okay, I'm going to move us on again. Last but by no means least, I'm really proud to introduce Alice Skeets from Next Door. It's a real pleasure and privilege to have Alice with us from pretty giant organisation. So Alice, I will just hand over to you.
Brilliant, thank you, Sam. Right, let me share my screen with you all. Okay. So, hello, my name is Alice and I work for Next Door. For those of you who don't know what Next Door is, I will give you a run over on what the app is and how you can get involved with it. So first of all, Next Door is an app and a desktop website essentially for neighbours. So it connects you with the neighbourhoods that matter the most to you. And our mission is to cultivate a kinder world where everyone has a neighbourhood and a neighbour to rely on. We launched in the UK in September 2016, and the whole idea came about because our co-founders realised there was a real gap in the social media space to connect you with the people around you. We have LinkedIn that connects us professionally, Facebook, which connects us with our friends and family, Twitter, where we can follow influencers and celebrities, politicians, but there was no social media website or app that connected you with the people around you. And if you don't know who they are, then how can you actually form that connection and break the ice? And that is how Next Door was born. And we are now in 11 different countries, and in the UK we really are growing, and we are in 1 in 7 households. So we have really seen quite a boom since we launched in 2016. Now, what is Next Door and why do people join it? If you think back to 10, 20 years ago, everyone knew their neighbours. I know within my family, when my mum went into hospital to give birth to me, it was the neighbours next door who looked after my brother and sister. However, as the world has moved on and we're sitting behind digital screens a lot more, we've kind of lost that connection with the people that live next door. And that's why Next Door is so important. So I see why people join on kind of 2 different layers. And the first one is utility. So it's people coming to the platform, perhaps because they need to find a plumber for their leaky tap. Maybe their favorite fish and chip shop has closed down, they want a new recommendation, or perhaps they need to find a dog walker. So it's finding real purposes and services in that local neighborhood. And then we have what I call our affinity layer. So it's actually driving about social action and change and building much deeper and meaningful layers. And this can be a group of people trying to tackle social isolation or loneliness, or perhaps they found a disused green space and they want to transform it into a nature reserve. Or an example from London is neighbours using Nextdoor to coordinate volunteer efforts and donations in the wake of Grenfell. And they actually use Nextdoor as the credible source of information. So they recognise there was a lot of fake news and misinformation on other traditional social media platforms. And so they use Nextdoor as the place to go for that vital and credible information. We have kind of two tiers when it comes to our platform and who our audience is. So that's all about Nextdoor for the general public, residents, neighbours, but I work specifically with our public services. So we have a dedicated tool for public services, and this is completely free and allows them to engage directly with their residents. It is a way that has never been possible before, and it's something I feel incredibly passionate about, because prior to my role at Nextdoor, where I joined 3 years ago, I worked in PR and comms for public sector. So started off working for a local authority and moved into law enforcement, so working for the police. And there was nothing like this out here that allowed me to directly engage with my residents, and that's why I'm so passionate about it as a tool. It works like traditional social media, that you can send a post in the newsfeed to residents, you can poll the community, and you can actually send an emergency alert. And this is really great in urgent incidents, such as road traffic collisions, or severe or extreme weather, or high risk missing people, because this allows a public sector organisation to push a message into the newsfeed, but also via email, a push through notification on the app, and if the neighbour is signed up to it, a text message alert. But what makes Nextdoor different compared to other social media? Now, there are some key parts that differentiate us to traditional social media. The first is the fact that when a public sector organisation joins, they're automatically connected to every neighbour on the platform in their service area. So there's no need to be a social media expert or marketing expert. There's no need to build up followers or likes. You're instantly connected to a much wider demographic too, because no one is having to proactively express an interest in the public service. By default, they're automatically connected to hear from that public service. Another key point, and why we've definitely seen lots more public services join this year and last year, is the fact you can geo-target your posts. So Stafford Borough Council can post the entirety of the borough, or they can select multiple wards, or they can actually target a ward by a hyper-local next-door neighbourhood level. The main point as well here is the fact that every person who is on Nextdoor has been verified to live at a specific address. So public services can be certain that they are putting their time and resource directly into serving the residents in their area. Whereas with other social media platforms, sometimes you might be communicating to local businesses, politicians, journalists, other like public services in the area, or sometimes even people on the other side of the world who might just still have an interest in you. We're really lucky that to date we have over 230 public services on the platform, and this ranges from local authorities to police forces, to police and crime commissioners, the NHS, fire services, and central government and NHS England, who've been using the platform to push out COVID comms during the last year and a half. But how can Nextdoor help community health and wellbeing? And obviously we're all here today to talk about walking, which is something I feel incredibly passionate about, both from a physical wellbeing, but also a mental health wellbeing point of view. And if I didn't do my daily walk, I actually do think I would go insane during this last year and a half. So it has really been my kind of blessing for me to get active. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that the majority of British people really do crave this sense of community. And this was actually a stat that we did some research when we first launched Nextdoor. And I think this is the perfect starting point of why Nextdoor is a good place to be able to bring people together and to actually try and connect them and get them out and about. One of the things that I think is really important is that Nextdoor is using modern day technology to reinstate kind of old fashioned morals and values. Like I said earlier, 10, 20 years ago, we all knew our neighbours next door. However, we're living in an ever more connected world. So we have laptops, we have iPads, we have mobile phones. But despite the fact we're more connected than ever, we're actually more disconnected. And so Nextdoor is all about building an online connection with your neighbour, but taking that offline and developing a real meaningful connection in real life. And we've seen this has been so important over the last year with COVID. So this is just some research from the mental health charity Mind. And I think this is really important to show how people have felt over COVID. Their mental health has been deteriorated, and how actually we can all come together to help one another and support each other during this difficult time. So we actually conducted some research ourselves last December with 3 of the leading global loneliness academics in the UK, Australia and the US. And what we found is that just knowing 6 neighbours in your community can alleviate and reduce the feelings of loneliness. And it was also linked to lowering depression, social anxiety and financial concerns to COVID. So this just really emphasises the importance of reaching out, making new connections, and the power of human connection to really help with boosting your mental health and trying to reduce those feelings of loneliness. Before COVID, we actually did a study into loneliness as well, and we found that 50% of our neighbours on Nextdoor said they had experienced loneliness in that year. 79% of them said they would actually give up their time to help a neighbour in need, and 75% of those said they would spare more than an hour a week. So we know that people on our platform are really willing to get involved and to help others. So how can people use Nextdoor to help other people and to, get involved in a walk? Now, there's a number of ways that they can use it, and these are just some of the my favorites that I thought. So one would be to post onto the newsfeed to share your favorite walk, and including an image to make it more visually appealing, and that this post might then inspire other people to get out and about and do the same walk. And I drafted a little one here on the right, which is, I live in Southend-on-Sea, so I'm very lucky that I get to go out on a morning beach walk, and there's a little picture there from one of my walks. And what I've done personally is, before I would commute into London, it was like an hour and a half. Now my commute is literally 2 minutes from the bedroom to my kitchen. So what I try to do is go out each morning for a walk or a run. So I actually recreate that commute, which I think is really important, so we can separate our work and our home space. Neighbours can also use Nextdoor to ask a recommendation for a walk. So perhaps they've exhausted all the walks nearby and they want to find somewhere new. So they can actually post into the newsfeed and ask that question. And then other people in the community can respond and recommend their favourite local walk and share pictures as well. Or perhaps people are feeling a little bit isolated, or that they are a bit lonely on their walk. They can actually ask people on Nextdoor whether they want to join them. I think sometimes reaching out onto a social media platform to say that you are feeling lonely or you're looking for new friendships, it's really hard and it requires a lot of courage. But we have seen so many people doing it on Nextdoor, particularly in the last year. So what I really want to do is encourage people not to be afraid. And actually that first step is the best step that you can take. It's what someone said earlier, because you'll find a community of people who are ready and willing to join you. And perhaps if someone has found some friends on Nextdoor to go for walks, they can actually set up a group, and this would allow them to help recruit new members for their walks, perhaps to plan their walk, so to decide where they're going for that week, and to share pictures from their meetups. Another handy feature that we have is our help map. And this is a way that neighbours can digitally raise a hand to say that they're willing to help. So in my neighbourhood, I've plotted myself on the map and I've let my neighbours know that I'm available to carry out small chores for them. So whether that's going to do their food shopping, perhaps to walk their dog, or to pick up the phone, give them a call to try and brighten their day, or go out on a social distance walk. And it's just a really great way for people who are vulnerable or in need to find people around them who can help carry out those kind of daily activities, or to join them on trying to just kind of make the world a little bit brighter when it has been incredibly difficult. I just also wanted to end this with a lovely case study that we have from Glasgow. And this is a story about Melissa. Now, Melissa really recognises the importance of connecting mental health and physical health. And so what she did is she wanted to create mindfulness walks. And so she posted on Nextdoor to her neighbours that she was going to be going out and practicing these mindfulness walks. And she was overwhelmed with the community who wanted to join. And you can see here a picture, and they've got a fairy friend along with them. And this actually took place during some of the lockdowns. So it was all social distance and following the regulations, but it was all about switching off from the outside world, turning your phone off and focusing on the nature and the beauty outside whilst actually enjoying some good old-fashioned walking. And you can see a quote here from Melissa about the importance it is on building these real-life in-person human connections, and how it can really help kind of build deeper, stronger community networks, but also help alleviate those feelings of loneliness in quite a challenging time. So that's a little bit about Nextdoor. If you are a public sector organisation who is interested in joining the platform, you can email us at publicservices@nextdoor.com. Or if you are a resident who hasn't joined the platform, definitely get involved. You can join the website at www.nextdoor.co.uk or download the app from your app store.
Thank you, Alice. That was brilliant. Nextdoor is such an interesting and useful platform. I absolutely love that it is really genuinely filled with people that are your next door neighbours and in your locality. So I really do encourage everybody just to get online and explore it, you know, click the link and have a little look at what's on there if you've not already signed up to use it. I am going to draw us to a close now. I wanted to say thank you so much to all of you for presenting today, all of our panellists, Lottie, Danny, Sarah, Chris, Alice and Jeremy for our welcome address. It's so useful to have all of you sharing all about the services that you offer, whether it's local or global. It's really useful to hear from you all. Do get in touch if there's any questions that we can answer for you all. Oh, sorry, I've shared the wrong slideshow. That's not helpful, is it? If you're going to do one thing off the back of this webinar today, I would just say, go out for a walk or download the Nextdoor app. And if it's a walk that you've already done 10 times before, then try and notice something new about it. If it's not a walk you've done before, be adventurous, go somewhere different and take that in as well. But whatever you're doing, enjoy your walking and try and connect and share with others as well while you're at it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And if anyone else is still listening, just to let you know, we have recorded this and it will be available on our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to go